Welcome to JavaScript Programming Concept 3.2. In this video, we're going to extend our understanding of decision makings to include logical operators, which will allow us to create more complex questions that we can answer. So let's get to it. So up to now, you learned that you can use the if construct to develop decisions. And again, that's across all languages. The topics that you're learning in this particular video also transcend to other languages. The syntax might be a little bit different, but the concept is still there. So sometimes when you make decisions, you have to base your decision off of multiple pieces of information. So for instance, if you wanted to check if somebody was a male 17-year-old, we have to use two pieces of information. So let's see how we can construct a decision to accomplish that. So we're going to start with our decision, and let's just write a quick message that says accepted. So we know we want to base our decision on the fact that the person has to be, let's say, at least 17 years old, and that the person is a male. So hopefully you kind of heard it. It came out very natural. So our decision is based off the fact that the person has to be at least 17 years old and that they are a male gender. So one of the logical operators you can use to extend your condition is what's called the AND logical operator. And the way you write that is to use the ampersand sign, two of them. So this now signifies to the computer, to the program, that you're making a decision based off the age and the gender. So let's see if this works. All right, so you see that we get accepted. Now I got to talk a little bit about how the logical operator works. The AND logical operator works. So the AND, all conditions must be met, or in other words, true. Now, if you notice, there's actually two independent conditions here, two independent questions that are being joined together. So for the logical operator AND to work, both conditions have to be true. Now let's switch this around. Let's say 16. And again, if you think of this just as an extension of your natural language, you kind of already realize that our condition is not being met. Because we're asking, is the person at least 17? Well, right now they're not. So that means that this side of our condition is going to fail, which means the whole condition fails. And let's just see that happen. You'll notice nothing pops up, so let's fix that with an else clause. And let's just simply write denied. All right, let's run that again. And again, it's always a good practice to give your users some kind of feedback, whether it's negative or positive. All right, so let's switch it around now. Let's say gender, let's say the person just didn't specify a gender. So they are at least 17, but there is no gender. So that means that the first side of the condition is met in that they're at least 17, but not the right side. All right, so the gender is not equal to male. The gender is actually nothing right now. And you'll see that it's also denied. So the only way for the condition, the whole condition to be met, is for both sides to be true. So that is how the logical AND operator works. Now, there is another type of logical operator that is used, which is called the OR operator. And for that, just for the sake of keeping it in the video, in case you want to go back and reference, I'm going to comment out, actually I'll comment out the second one. Let this next one take center stage. So this is the AND logical operator. There is an OR logical operator. And let's see how that one plays out. And I'll just put this here for right now. Now, again, using our understanding of the or operator, you've used it in your everyday language. You're going to do this or that. So it's like one or the other or possibly both. So if an or condition, if any condition, let me write this a little bit different, is at least one condition must be met for the whole thing to be true. Now, if you're curious as to where this vertical line is, it's typically over your enter key, and sometimes on the enter key it's printed as a double vertical line, one on top of the other, and that's really just not to confuse it with possibly like an L or an I on your keyboard. But it doesn't come up as two vertical lines, it actually comes up as a solid line. So let's see this run. So you'll see here that the word accepted was displayed, and that's because the age is 17, so this side of the statement is true, or the person's a male. Well, it happens to be that both sides are true. Now let's switch up the left side. So the person is 16, but they are a male. Let's see how that plays out in our decision. So you'll see that the person is accepted. Well, the left side of our condition is not true, in the sense that the person is not older than 17, but they are a male. Remember, that's how the or works. It's one or the other or possibly both. So let's put this back to 17, and let's go back to that other scenario that the person just doesn't enter in a gender. And you'll see that they're also accepted. So the left side, the person is at least 17. They're not male, but remember, it's an or. One of these two has to be met, or possibly both. So the only way for us to really fail this decision is if they're both failing. So in this case, I'm going to put it as age is 16 and they don't enter a gender. In that case, this left side is false, and so is the right side. At that point, you're denied. So with the or operator, at least one of the two conditions must be met for the whole thing to be true. So I don't want you to think of these as opposites, but again, for an AND operator, just a small review before we move on to the next operator, all conditions must be met. For an OR operator, at least one. Now, in this example, I only showed two conditions, but honestly, you could chain as many of these as you want. You can also combine these. Like you could have certain parts that are OR, other parts that are AND. Again, it all depends on the scenario. Now, the last logical operator I want to discuss is a very simple one, which is the NOT operator. Now, the reason I say it's simple is that all it does is just negate. So let's say, well, let's do it like this. Let test if age is less than 20. And then we'll do let test 2 be the opposite of test. Now again, you might think, well, when might I use this not operator? Again, it all depends on how your scenario is written. Sometimes it's very convenient to use the word not, and you'll see that when we discuss loops. And let's just print both of these out. So we'll say console log of test and of test 2. Okay, so you can see here that the first test, again, based off our numbers up here of 16, well, 16 is less than 20, so test comes back as true. But test 2, which is not, or think of it like this, reverses the Boolean value, or it just makes it the opposite, if it makes it easier for you to understand it like that. But that's what the not operator does. It reverses the value of the Boolean expression. So because test was true, not test becomes false. Again, the logical operators up here, the and or, are more commonly used. The not operator is just a special case where, depending on the scenario, it's just easier to use the word not if your scenario itself uses the word not. The next thing I want to show you, and I think I might just end up pushing everything down, is how can you check for a range, for a value to be within a range? And that's a special case of the and operator. So you might have a scenario where you want to check, check to see if the age is between, let's say, 14 and 18. And again, notice how I use the word and, which kind of gives you a hint. Well, the and operator has to be somehow involved in this. So the way I'm going to write this is, I'm going to check to see if the age is greater than or equal to 14 and the age is less than or equal to 18. If it is, then we're going to go ahead and write the word, which I'll just copy from down here. Save me a little typing. And let's comment out these. Let's comment out this one too. I don't need to see that anymore. All right, so we do see that the word accepted comes up, and let's go ahead and write this else clause as well. Now let's switch the age around. Let's say the person is 13. So with the age being 13, the left side of this and expression turns out to be false. And if you recall, whenever you use the and logical operator, both sides need to be met. So at that point, we're going to get denied because we're not greater than or equal to 14. Now let's go on the other side. Let's say 20. So age is greater than or equal to 14. Well, yeah, 20 is greater than or equal to 14. But remember, this is an and logical operator, which means both sides need to be met. And 20 is not less than or equal to 18, so we get denied. Now, we can string more things along with this. So going back to original statement that I mentioned, that you can actually string a bunch of these together. So how can we check for a male that's between the ages of 14 and 18? So again, you can see here, we're denied because this middle condition turns out to be false. Now let's switch this over to, let's say 16 again. And now we're accepted because all of the conditions get met. 16 is greater than or equal to 14, and it's less than or equal to 18, and the gender is male. Again, if at any point any of these fail, then we will not have the condition met. Now you might want to try something different. Let's say we're looking for somebody to be within the ages of 16, between the ages of 14 and 18, or they're a male. So in this case, if I go 20, well, this is going to fail. We know that already. But because this is part of the and logical operator, this side turns out to be false. But if you recall with the or statement, one of the two sides has to be at least true. And it happens to be that the right side is true. So we're accepted here. Again, these are a little more complex examples, and with experience, you'll get comfortable with how to use these logical operators. So let's go back to our presentation. So we saw in this particular video that we can use logical operators to create more complex decisions. One type of complex decision that can be made is to check to see that a value is within a range. So hopefully you're excited, and trust me, logical operators are very powerful concepts to use in programming. Enjoy.